Well, we'll
I'm
talk
getting
about
through. Yes.
it.
Things seem to be getting brighter.
Yeah.
Yes. After my very long dark night of the soul, those labels we have.
Did you have another one?
Well, I think that one, you know, has been 2.4 years.
You're still going through it.
Yes, but it's much better and much brighter
Yeah.
in those waves.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't. How does that? So that they're. It's almost like they're more intense, but they don't last very long, right?
Yes, we don't hang on to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird because it feels like you know all that stuff. It just doesn't stick anymore. Even if
No.
you try to hang out there, it just doesn't. It doesn't work with you.
Yeah, nothing's sticking with me. Nothing.
Yeah.
Completely, what's it called? Non-stick proof, but no, that's not the right label either.
Oh, Teflon. I like
Teflon,
Teflon.
that's the one.
Yeah. It's
So I
getting that way.
recognise now that because my memory has been wiped, that some words for things, all the big words and labels we use, a lot of them have dropped away from me.
Yeah.
So I can't find the words sometimes.
So, yeah, I do so many shows, and of course we're in the middle of this ascension. You can't remember everything, but I remember most of your story, right? And but we had this lady on. She's been on twice. She came on about the time you did, and then she came on again last week. Krista Marie, and
Yes,
she
I
she
remember
you
her.
saw that. So she
Yeah.
lost her memory, short term and long term, for 2 years, and then after 2 years, she went. Not, I believe, uh, the next 9 years without her long term memory, which made it easier for her, almost like a snapshot of what we're all headed into, which is she had no point of context for any
Yes.
conflict that she might have had with anyone, so she didn't look at anyone with any prejudice or bias. Are you experiencing that?
Yes, I've been through, and I remember watching her both times. So I can laugh. I laugh at everything anyway, because the universe is, quite harsh and quite funny sometimes. And,
Quite
and
harsh and quite funny at the same time. Yeah, that pretty much says it, doesn't it?
yes, so I see that any memory that's been wiped has been for my benefit,
Yeah.
and actually, what I need as and when is I'm able to use what I need, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. And I can see now, so 2.5 years later, I
Uh-huh.
can see that I can access a lot more than previous. Not everything. So how can I explain it? So usually, in the old me, and I'm thinking, because when I hear you guys, you all sound very similar. That I used to store everything. So, all of everything, everything. My memory was very, very stored. And now it's just not there. So my
Yeah.
head's not full.
Yeah.
And I feel like I am able, I call it the monkey brain.
Yeah.
So I recognise that a lot of society, a lot of most people have access to that monkey brain. And that's where I can now, with my close family and a couple of friends and stuff, I give a little bit of, my information, my experience with that, because I understand the monkey brain is not good. So to try and disattach from that monkey brain, which I've been gifted. I say I've been gifted, I have that gift now. But occasionally I can think a little bit and think, oh, yeah, why would we be thinking that? But not a lot, not a lot.
Yeah. It reminds me of doing shows with Franco, and when he would talk about how this would actually look and feel as we progressed. And one of the things that he says, which you and Krista seem to be leading the way, or at least showing signs of the characteristics of what he was talking about, through your own experience before we might be doing it. I think we're getting into it now. But that is what he would say, is that there would come a time when these points, that these things that occurred in the past would no longer be a point of context for the crap, like for the
Yes.
conflict, or for the issues we might have had with someone or something. They would remain a memory, but they wouldn't be a point of context for a lower vibrational thought from us, or wouldn't give us, just like with you and Krista. You
Yeah.
don't have the context of the long-term memory, so you don't remember when you and I had I'm just making it up, but when you and I had a falling out 5 years ago. So we see each other today, and it'd be like it's no memory of it. So we look at each other with
Put my hand up then.
yeah, yeah,
So with you saying that, you reminded me that's exactly what's happened to me, because I, for example, took my son to his high school about 18 months ago. And when I went in there was a man who used to work for me in my alternative provision, and he'd tried to take me to court for, it was a long complicated story, but because I'd kept everything as I do, I went through everything, and it all got left. But he gave me a difficult time, and it was him who I seen at the school. But I had completely forgot all of that and gave him a hug, obviously,
right,
because he'd heard about what had happened with me. And so we'd hugged and we'd made up. And then when I got home later that day, I think I was having a discussion and somebody reminded me. So I've recognised that people have had to remind me for most things. And
right.
when I'm reminded, I have the memory jog. So it's not like it's completely gone. It's there if somebody, jogs that memory, but it's a positive thing, definitely.
So when you, like, when you got back or whatever, after that happened, and you saw that guy that you had a problem with. So when your friend reminded you, did you have like bad feelings? Was there
No,
when you remembered what happened? No.
no,
Okay. So that's nice. That's very nice.
yes, definitely. I say
Well,
the slate's been wiped clean.
and that's what he talked about. He talked about we would get to a point where it just wouldn't be there anymore. And it sure seems like that is starting to occur because people aren't holding on to things like they used to. Now, given, COVID and quarantines and mandates and coercion to take jabs, and I'm not picking a side on anything, I'm just giving this as an example. Like many things, it seems to be bringing to the surface are the charges that we have, positive or negative. And I'm not saying that it's an emotion or an ethical, right or wrong, but it seems like it comes up, and it to be seen, and I guess just based on what I'm seeing this year, even though there's been a lot of fluctuation in our energies, it just seems like people are, for lack of a better way to say it, chilling out and just chilling out,
Yes,
which is pretty amazing when you consider that we definitely seem to have, there seems to be a direct relation between the inner work that we do and our own life experience, but at the same time, on a collective level, there seems to be that which occurred to you and to Krista Marie is occurring to all of us, which is kind of cool, you know.
yes, and that's made me feel a lot better about myself. So
Mhm.
I said to you last time we spoke, you've been an absolute godsend, and it's been my lifeline, your show, and a lot of people who've been on your show and who are, family, we'll say that word again, that I now have connections to a lot of those people, and I feel like I've stepped into many worlds. That's been my experience. I always laugh now and say, did I really sign up for all these experiences? Because I've had a little, dip in each world, and this feels like stepping into the real world, the
Yeah.
true nature of, what reality is.
Yeah. I wonder if part of what's going to happen too is, I've been watching this Matthias De Stefano. I've mentioned it a few times. Initiation, I believe is what it's called. It's on Gaia TV. But he talks about I believe it's the eighth dimension, and that in the eighth dimension, if you can just picture like a person looking outward, like say from their Merkaba, that you can view or experience without experiencing it every perspective of any situation. So you can see what it's like to walk in someone else's shoes, which is what we kind of do literally in these incarnations as he explains it. But
And that's funny as well, because I used to call myself, before my accident/incident, I used to call myself the perception queen, because I'd come to have that much experience with working and living in different areas and working with different people with, a range of difficulties, and again, those labels. So I'd said that I'd become the perception queen, and now, add a little bit more onto that.
mm. So, and did you tell me you had kids? Do you have kids?
Yes, so my son recently, the conversations we've been having are just blowing me away, because he's 15, my son. My daughter was 25 on the 4th of November, so a few days ago. Um, and my son's 15, but he's had, we won't go into the story, but a difficult experience in education,
Mm.
because he's been labelled with ADHD. So I'm very aware now, more aware than I ever was, of all of those labels and actually their superpowers. And
Yeah.
these children, I've worked with a lot of young people before my incident. I ran an alternative provision for 2 years, and every young person who was referred to me was excluded from mainstream education, and they were all either undiagnosed or diagnosed with ADHD, autism, dyslexia, and then my son fell into that box. We like to put everything in boxes and labels in this society. So he fell into that box in just when he was making the transition to high school. So one of the most, a really big transition for a young person. So that just messed up his whole transition. He didn't go into high school, and then he was out of education for about 8 months because there was no places for him. And then he got into an alternative education centre, which I didn't want him to really go into, because I'm aware of how badly they are run by the mainstream. So anyway, he's had a 4-year, lack of, but I now see how that education system is so broken anyway, that
Yeah.
he's missed anything. And actually it's been the last 6 months that's allowed me to recognize how amazing he is, and the
Yeah.
information that's already within our children. And our children have their, talents, abilities, gifts within them. And in my experience, the education at the moment is just, conformist. And my son has never been a conformist, so I can smile and laugh now that he was never going to be in that mainstream education setting.
Yeah. I wonder how many are like him, and I wonder if, given your experience before the incident, working with young people, and then of course having him as a son in the middle of
Yes.
all this. I wonder if that's part of what one of your purposes is going to be, is to somehow or another work with
Yeah.
those superpowers that are mislabeled as afflictions and handicaps.
Naughty.
What's that?
Naughty. That's what they get called, don't they? It's the naughty children.
Oh, the naughty ones, yeah. All the star seeds, definitely, many of them have that rebellious tag from their
Yes.
upbringing. But yeah, that's so. I mean, like you said, you're having incredible conversations with him. Is he like at 15 years old? Is someone like that, especially having a mother like you? Are they? Do they ever talk about something's happening on the earth? There's a collective expansion. Are they more into their own world?
Well, he's not had that conversation, but a few days ago he started randomly speaking about Moses parting the sea and
Mm,
how that information had been given to him because he went to a Catholic primary school. And he was really like challenging that information. But there's truth in everything. And the way he brought that up amongst quite a few things like that recently, because then the day after in Susanna Mara, one of her Zooms that we were on, and this what happens in my life now. So then she brought up the parting of the sea. So it's current and relevant, and it had a meaning. Everyone has their own perception and their own
yeah,
meaning for things, but there's some truth in that. And for him to be speaking about that,
yeah,
and yeah, it's quite
that's pretty
special.
cool. So he's questioning things, and I think it's pretty cool too. Like I don't remember if I don't remember Franco ever saying this specifically, but he probably did. But I think another thing we have to give respect to that's happening is like with your situation with your son. So he comes in and talks to you one night about Moses parting the Red Sea and his own thoughts on that and questions on that. And then the next day or the day after, you're in a Zoom call with Suzanne and she's talking about it. But what I'm talking about is how things are, kind of connected from
Oh,
one experience to the next, which we used to not see the connection. And now we can see that basically life is speaking to us almost like we're reading a book. Like you just go from one scene to another scene and you're like, oh my God, these are connected. So it's a synchronicity, I'm on the right track. And B, the message becomes a little bit clearer, uh, with each connection that you realize. So that's
and
pretty.
that's exactly what I've been saying, that I can not only see my own storybook, everyone's life is a storybook. And with that, what I've just said, I've now got a new friend. He's an old friend who's now a new friend, but he's called Jed the Urban Poet, and he's from Manchester, and he works with the homeless.
Mm,
So straight away, I think I met him a good few months ago now. Straight away, I connected that with you. And about 3 or 4 weeks ago, he took me out and we spent like 6 hours out on the streets,
wow.
which was lovely. And all of the people that we met, all of the homeless people, were amazing. And again, it was all part of the storybook. It's been an amazing experience for me over the last few months. So my life has got very different in the most amazing way.
Yeah. So are you having like, when it comes to things like lucid dreams or psychic abilities, dimensional experiences, visitations, downloads? I mean, are you having anything change in those areas or areas like that? Like, are you
Yes,
experiencing an expansion in those types of ways?
yeah, I've seen a few things. I know we spoke on the last show about me seeing Grandfather Rock. and now I recognise that's with the, you know, what I feel, no one's told me this, the patriarchy and how that whole control system, and I've had experience working in that control system as well. And, you know, with my brother and my dad, and all of my experience have allowed me to see how that's played out in our lives. And the last thing that I seen was that I now know it was two grids. So like the earth grids,
Yeah.
really colourful ones. And so yeah, I've had a few things happen and been able to see. I feel a lot, so I feel an awful lot. I felt like Archangel Michael, and I know there's many different, you know, I don't even know what to call them, because now I'm feeling,
Consciousnesses, I don't know. I don't know either. I don't know. To me, like soul and consciousness are really the same thing to me. I mean, consciousness is more of a, let's say, a scientific term, because they're not
yeah,
going to use the term soul, and soul might be more of a spiritual term or religious term. But yeah, I get what you're saying. What and in regard to the two grids, was one of them the old grid, the patriarchal, and one of them the new Earth grid? And if so, what did that look like, or
the
how did
new
that?
Earth grid looked very yellow, so very much of a brighter
Mm,
colours, and yeah, I don't really remember that much, but
yeah.
yeah, I had another experience when that was happening, and we're talking about it now, so I'm going to say it. Um, I experienced really, you know, how can I put it, amazing feelings just from nowhere. So I seen the grids and then had that experience as well. So it was at that point, I've been single anyway for 15 years, but it was at that point I thought, oh, we don't need a man for anything.
Oh, so you had a very intense experience then, I see.
Yes,
Oh, wow,
yes,
that's pretty, yeah, because to me, everything we experience is just it's information, and we all get it different ways. But it sounds like you saw the New Earth grid, and it was soulgasmic. If I just use that word, yeah.
yes, that's a brilliant word.
Yeah, I've had some of those recently as well. But yeah, that's another thing. But now what about like I mean we obviously have spent so long, really the majority of our lives, focused or attentive to the less comfortable parts of life, and not that we haven't been able to appreciate and be grateful for the good things, but things are changing rapidly. But there's still the element of the download or the energy's impact or the trigger or whatever you want, or like you were saying, the little bitty dark nights energies that come in still. Have you
Yes.
had, in the last couple of 2, 3 months, have you had any moments where you were just like, get me out of here, I'm done, I don't want to be here, I'm tired of this happening again and again? Have you had those moments, and if so, how did you deal with them?
Again, not so deep or long, but glimpses.
Yeah.
So tiny, maybe 5 minute glimpses, rather than, I know I spoke last time about maybe about a year ago or a year and a half ago. I had two where I really felt, I don't want to be here anymore, and worked through that as well. But these times it's been for 5 minutes
Yeah.
and not been so strong, but when you question the whole, but we're here forever anyway, we're eternal, so it doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah, no, I get that. It like with everything that's happening, it seems like the field has gone from this vast multitude of aspects of your life, and it just keeps getting narrower and narrower, and everything seems to just be a choice of two paths, and you make a choice, and then you have another choice of two paths, almost something like that. But there's a couple of things that I guess, were impressed upon me very, like, in the last few days. And one of them was a video I found in my on my old playlist, and I don't remember the guy's name. I think his name is Chris Thomas, and I don't remember this guy. I just remember saving. I must have saved it on a playlist, but anyway. So what I'm saying is that in his video, it's a 14-minute video. I put it on my page. It's very interesting. He talks about tapping into the Akashic and how he does that, which all of us are finding we can do. And he talks about what's going on with us and how it all works. And basically, what he's saying is that that the universe and all of us wanted to find out, could we physically manifest a physical experience equal to our non-physical experiences, and that regardless of what incarnation or whether we're physical or non-physical, that the idea is to see what we can create. And so then I had watched that, and then I was kind of just sitting with that, and I guess I had a moment like we have, right? And it was like, okay, to your words, I'm a soul. I know that. I'm going to be here forever, but I'm only going to be Todd for a definite period of time. So the idea that I got then, or the download, was make it the best you can. Like utilize all of your connections or connectivity, uh, whether the world thinks they're real or not. Just try to make a fairy tale come true. And it really resonated with me. Like, I don't know, but that was the key thing, was when I said those words that you just said, which was, I know I'm eternal. I know I never expire. Right.
Yeah, and I've struggled with that sometimes. So actually sitting with that, but now I understand every experience is very different and unique,
Yeah.
because when you're in a not so great place and you think eternal, like this is forever and ever, and there's no ending to it at all, that
Right.
then becomes quite big, doesn't it? Everything's quite big for the human brain, I'm learning.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's that line of difference between the mind and the brain. Like,
Yes.
I was watching this thing last night, and it was pretty fascinating. And I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, I know what it was. It was a lady that was a scientist of some sort in regard to the human body, and Russell Brand. And I'm going to go back and find it. But anyway, she was explaining about the evolution the of the brain. And there's a piece in the brain that has been unaltered, and I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know if it's the pineal or what it is, but there's a part of the brain that's never been altered, and we're going back to even when we were not Homo sapiens. So it's remained the same, like a Cro-Magnon, Magnon, and that type of thing. But that there's a part right here in the front that would be in front of on the outer edge of it, that has evolved. And I don't remember all the specifics. I'm going to try to remember, but that the
Frontal lobe.
yeah, it's in front of that though. It's a small little piece, and it's in front of the frontal lobe. But anyway, the characteristics and functions of this part, I'm telling you, she listed about 5 things, and they were all the things that are leaving us now. Okay,
Yes.
such as concern for the future. Okay, or you might even say survival. But it was all up here in the front, and I thought, wow, that's really weird. That's kind of the things that we talk about on this show that people are talking about that are going away. So that's pretty interesting. I don't even know why I brought that up, but back to you.
And I feel that, is it that the right word? Recalibration of my brain,
Yes.
um, as being part of this whole journey. I can just resonate with. So every show that you put out there, Todd, nearly every person. So this weekend especially, it's just like that person who's speaking is me. You
Yes.
know, I could be having that conversation and it all resonates with me. I know the lady you had on a few nights ago, again, she felt like a real sister. You know, she could have been me speaking, and that's with a lot of your shows. And then I just feel, okay, so that's the connection with the consciousness. Everyone feels like that.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like really strong.
Yeah, I think that's the number one thing over the years, 10 years, and we still get them, we every day. Uh, and it's the number one thing people say, which really to me isn't about Soulogy. It's about what's working. And what it is they say, like I just got one last night, and I don't know who the lady is, and she said, she sent a contribution, and thank you everybody for that, and I really mean that. Um, but she said, I don't know what I would have done. You've been a lifesaver. Soldier's been a lifesaver because I'm not, I'm not the weird one anymore. I'm not alone anymore. These people are having the same experience I'm having, which is phenomenal. And to me, what's working? Just people telling the truth about their experience, right? I mean that you think it's going to be Archangel Michael or Jesus or Magdalene or Kuan Yin coming in and giving you this major information, which so many people have experienced something like that. Maybe not literally, but it's just us talking, which is amazing, right?
So,
It's
with you
amazing.
mentioning Magdalene, I went to Glastonbury a few weeks ago on a Magdalene retreat and spent the weekend in Glastonbury and went up to Glastonbury tour. So, for somebody who's registered disabled, I'm registered disabled now, which, I can laugh at as well. I walked all the way up Glastonbury tour barefooted,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure if you're aware of how steep it is up there. It's quite steep, and it was quite windy as well. So the experiences I've been having, one's been Glastonbury tour, which is the heart chakra, and then I think about 2 weeks ago I went, and I didn't arrange any of these. This is what's happening now. It's just I don't have planning. Things, just present and then it happens. So I went to Glastonbury for the weekend, did my Magdalene weekend, went at Glastonbury tour, did a few, healing sessions, and then a couple of weeks ago I went to Long Meg, which is some stone circle, which is in Penrith. It was a 2-hour drive, but my friend, who's also got her own organisation, she has an organisation called Calm Connections,
Mm.
and she runs like a mental health support organisation for families and young people because her son was affected by mental health and had a really difficult time. So she just invited me. Well, I'm part of the group, the Long Meg group now, so that's the Healing the Earth group. And we went to the Stone Circle, and it's quite funny because the Stone Circle is known for, it was a group of witches who were dancing in the field and got turned to stone. So
Really?
that's it. Yeah.
I wonder if it's those stones in Outlander. God, you just said something too. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You just reminded me too, because that section in the front part of the brain that I was telling you about, one of the things that it does is it's like part of planning things. So without that, you can't plan things, right? So there's another example. I'm going to find that video and I'll put it up on my page and explain a little
Definitely.
bit of it. But yeah, yeah. So that's like you were saying. You just you weren't planning it. These things just happened, right?
Yes.
Very cool.
So now we're part of that group, and I can see that's just everything I see is growing. So I went to Long Meg, which was the Witch's Stone Circle, which was amazing. And somebody who met us there was doing light language, and it was just an amazing few hours. My cousin from Leicester, which is up near London, she came down to visit me on that day. She never knew that we were going there. And
Wow.
she's also a youth worker. She's really close to me, and she has her own organisation called Butterfly Beacons. And she said, I've got to tell you now that I'm coming to see you because you're always doing something lately. Because I've been through a whole period of time of not doing anything. So she said, I have to tell you because you just keep telling me that you're going here and you're going there. And so she landed here that morning. So she actually came to the Witch's Stone Circle as well. So
Can't make it.
Yeah,
Right?
everything's divine timing now, and I can see that.
Wow.
And then I
So-
learned that Long Meg was so Glastonbury is known as the heart chakra, and then I found out that when we were at Long Meg that's also known as the heart. One of them's the heart chakra of the UK, and one of them's the heart chakra of another name. There's two separate, but anyway, they both shared that they were supposed to be the heart chakra.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
And that was the title of the book that I think I'm going to write a book, but a title that's been with me for a long time now, probably around 2 years, has been The Power of the Heart, because actually with what I was able to allow to be created over the 10 years I worked, aside some systems, that actually the outcomes that can be made with the power of the heart. And then I go along to these places, what are heart chakras?
And you meet other people.
Yes.
And there, and I feel like you do, like, because we have come out of this complicated field, right? Like where we have all these issues and they're getting narrowed, and then you wonder sometimes, like, how's this going to happen, or how's that going to happen? This can't happen, or this can happen, or this will happen. And all those things are kind of going away. And it's nice to be able to just not, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I know one thing: my heart is a magnet. And if I really run something through my heart, whether it be to deliberate a choice or to handle and stabilize a trigger, or to look for guidance, or to give the universe my greatest dreams, that there's something about that works. It actually works. And I think that's happening more and more with people.
And I've been sharing that as well, to not listen to your head, to take 5 minutes to listen to your heart.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that, even though it's not as simple as that. But, if we can disattach from the monkey brain, and I say when I'm speaking to people, it was a gift for me because I had that removed, and now I can, really still feel how that must be a lot more difficult for other people, because the monkey brain is very active, isn't it? And for me, I'm never in. So even when you were speaking then, I don't really think about much. And that can sound, I'm laughing as I say it. I do think, but I don't think in the old fashioned way.
Yeah. You feel.
Yes.
I think that's like, and again, too, like you have all these different methods and philosophies and ways of life and modalities. Yet everybody can, I think, can understand or learn to understand how do you feel, right? That's really at the human level to me, like what it means to run something through the heart. How do you feel? How does this make you feel? And if I go back to that video with that guy Chris Thomas, it even makes more sense because uh, that's basically all there is. It's whatever that is, that creative seed or that creative energy that keeps creating, that has to be centered in the heart to me. It has to be. It would make nothing else makes any sense.
Yes. So another thing that's just come into my mind, my brother got some really good news a few days ago. So my brother, I told you last time we spoke, had stage 4 cancer. He'd been given 12 months.
Yes.
Um, so I think about 3 or 4 days ago, he went to see the specialist, and they told him that his lung cancer had massively shrunk.
Wow.
Like, they've not really seen it before. I think she mentioned one other client I call patient. Um, she'd only seen it once before, but when me and my mum spoke to her about that, it's like, actually, they're accustomed to say all these things, and just remove that. And that's what I've been talking to him about anyway, just reminding him, because he is very awake, if we use that label. But I said last time, very angry awake, and still I can still see it now. And that's why I don't spend too much time in that energy, because still it's spoken about a lot, and I recognize the power of word.
Yeah.
And what you speak, you put out there, and actually to still be in all of that entanglement is something I've completely been out of for quite a long while now. So I recognize that, although that was amazing to hear that from the specialist, it's like, wow, it's good news anyway.
How did that make him feel? Did he have any idea how that happened? How
Um,
the improvement occurred?
so he's been saying this isn't his time anyway. This isn't going to happen to him. Yeah, he might have cancer, but as we're aware that most of our disease is created by our emotions, and there was a lot of those emotions for him that he'd buried, and it's
Yeah.
about uprooting them, isn't it?
Yeah.
And releasing them and allowing them, because I can laugh when I say that, because I feel my accident happened because I'd locked away a lot of my emotions, and for me to revisit. And it's quite funny because I'm laughing again, because maybe a few months ago I couldn't even revisit my past, because I said I think I said to you last time, I got amnesia and then got amnesia again. So we came to this life and we have amnesia, and then I got amnesia after my accident. So that actually completely disattached me from any of my, my teens, my 20s. It was all completely gone. So I couldn't really go back and revisit that to heal it. And I know you have to feel it to heal it. Um, but that's all been coming through as well.
Wow. Uh, and that's another thing too that you're bringing up. Like, I don't know that if it's always, you know, modalities and processes help, certainly help. Shadow work, zero pointing,
Yeah.
uh, and it seems like that now as we become aware, it starts. The transformation starts very quickly. I mean, it doesn't take as long, regardless. But there's something to be said for these emotions coming up, and it might look like projection or we lost our mind or something, but how they're coming up, and it's not such a bad thing if we can get past what it looks like if I get angry or if you trigger me and I yelled at you, that actually is I'm starting to see where that's, they're coming up, so they will be seen, and they won't be the force on our lives that they were. They'll be, transformed. So
Yes.
when I
And
see
part of
people
that,
going back and forth on these posts and like, oh my God, it's not this way, it's that way, I think, okay, well, that's not such a bad thing, because there's going to be some expansion coming from there.
yes, and part of those things coming up. So when I was on the train to Glastonbury, that was funny as well, because my family says I don't do anything in halves, because the train journey to Glastonbury is quite far. It's like 5.5 hours travelling. There was quite a few changes with the train, and because of my circumstances, my family said you don't do anything by halves. But on that train journey, and I managed it all very well, and felt really proud of myself afterwards. But on the train journey going, I got a text off and it was a womb healing weekend. So it was a womb healing weekend in Glastonbury. Um, and my daughter's father just randomly started connecting with me. And I feel that's where all of my womb healing started. So for him to then reappear, and maybe a few days after that, a lot of text messages, a lot of messages saying how much he loved me, and
Crazy.
crazy. But for me, that's been good for me to not have any feelings.
Yeah. But I
So I
mean,
recognize,
the fact that it came up, like when it came up, and what it really did. I don't know if you saw our friend Angela Dwell when she was on. She's been on a few times, but she hadn't been on for several months because she'd been in isolation like so many people. But she was telling a story how she had separated from her previous partner 15 years ago, and they never finalized the divorce because there was too much acrimony, too many points of contention,
remember.
and so she just got to this point where she just said, you know what? She sent him an email or called him and just said, "You can just give me whatever you want." And he freaked out because the war was over. And then the same thing happened from there, like what you're talking about. The same thing
Yes.
happened from there, and they basically, I guess, in one way or another, came into the awareness of how much they loved each other, even though they, you know what I mean. So, like, wow,
Yeah. I thought about that because I watched that later, and I thought about how that sounded, very similar to what's happening. But I don't put any outcome on anything,
yeah,
so it's just all whatever is meant to be is meant to be, and
yeah.
but
I think that's part of it too. Like we were talking about that, the characteristics or the functions of that front part of the brain I was referring to in that video, and how it seems like those things are the things that are actually going away. And one of those is, like I said, no future, no attention to the future, and then two, no planning. But part of, I think what goes with that is what you're talking about, is no expectation, right?
no
It's just it's
expectation.
almost like if what that woman was saying is removed, then there's nothing but the present.
Yes, and I say the way I am now is to be in the present moment. That's how I function.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have all the entanglement of thinking about, the past or things, and yeah, I'm just in the present moment all the time.
See, there's another Patricia Burke says that her husband wants to meet after 8 years. So there's all this. Now she had a question. We don't normally do this too much, but she said, "Can I ask if you have only opened your third eye for a few moments? I don't see what a lot of people do. I know heaven is here in one's third eye. I, you know, I don't. We don't really get into answering questions, or because." it's not really that type of platform. But I would just say that, I think we underestimate our experiences because we've been conditioned in a realm where there's so much comparison, which is the patriarchal. That's part of the patriarchal. So I would just say, I don't know. On a personal level, I think the third eye opens over and over and over to varying degrees. We might think that it's not, just like we might think other psychic abilities we don't have because somebody else can do something or says they can do something. But I think we're all going through it, and I don't think it just happens. I think it just keeps coming in like waves. But that's just my opinion. Do you have any
Yeah.
advice for her?
I feel that I've gone through, everything. And at the beginning of this journey, I was, following yoga teachers and, more awakened people. And I went through all of that to then recognize that everything is from within and everything comes at the right moment when you're ready without having to search for it from, having to breathe this way. And breathing is important. That is the main message I've had for the last 2.5 years, is that breath, just breathe. I say that now and it makes people laugh because I especially say it to Jed, the urban poet. I'm always saying, and breathe. It's my new word. So I think breathe is a good
Yeah.
piece of advice, and just to not compare your abilities. I think it's just the same in life, isn't it? That everybody's unique
Yeah.
and everybody has their own abilities. So for me, my life it's always been a storybook, but now it's even more of a storybook.
Mm.
For example, the one thing that's in my mind is Jed, the urban poet, met me in Manchester and took me to the library, and they had a whole exhibition on Egypt. So I got to connect with, ISIS and Egypt, and I've been really connected with all of that since. But then after the library, we went to a place called the Refuge. And then when he took me there, I remembered that actually this was the place that I'd been for dinner and for a meeting with the person who transitioned in my accident, because she was connected with the horse racing industry. So we'd all met in there for a horse meeting because I developed a program on horse racing, with young people, and I've had a couple of young people who are still there now. And they were born awake as well. I'm still really connected to those young people who are now young adults, who went through that horse program, because I believe it's a good foundation for any young person. So I recognised it was a refuge. I recognised it was the place we'd had the meeting. And then we walked into the lobbyway, and there was a huge, huge black horse just stood there in the lobbyway. And then near the horse, there were some cherubs. And I'm just waffling a little bit now, and I don't mind the word waffle because I've changed that word to mean that when we're speaking passionately about something we love.
Mm-hmm.
But all my experiences are very magical.
That's what's happening. No
Yes.
doubt. She's from Brendan's asking, she's where you from? She's from Manchester. And I just want to say to Patricia Julie Burke, like so many other people, but I just want to say, don't feel like the Lone Ranger. The breathing and the heart, I think, were the big takeaways today. And also want to just tell Patricia Julie Burke, thank you for always showing up on YouTube. She's always, you know, dropping some nice comments. So, and everybody else. We're going to be
Yes.
back in 5 minutes with our brother from Sweden, Brother Bilal. And we're going to talk about Altia. We're going to talk about a few things that should be a really good follow up to this incredible show with Louise. But just keep making a pathway. I love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Best to you,
Thank you,
brother.
Patricia, for my lovely rose. She sent me a rose post yesterday, so thank you for that, my love.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So yeah, we'll be back in a minute with Broder Bilal, and Louise. We'll see you down the road again. Okay, maybe next year.
Thank you so much, Todd. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye bye.
Right. Bye bye.